The sun dipped behind the jagged skyline of the alien city, casting long, silver shadows across the crystalline towers that shimmered under the twin moons. It was a place of wonders and dangers alike, a world that humans could never have imagined, yet here he stood, the only human among an entire court of beings whose lives were dictated by honor, power, and ancient traditions. His name was Eli, and he had come to this planet not as a conqueror or explorer, but as a protector. He first arrived as a mere envoy, sent from Earth to negotiate a fragile alliance with the ruling royal family of the planet. The alien queen, a towering figure with skin that reflected the stars themselves, had watched him with curious eyes from the moment he disembarked from his shuttle. She spoke little, her voice melodic yet commanding, resonating through the grand hall like a song made of metal and wind. But it was her daughter, the young princess, who had first approached him, her steps careful, almost hesitant. Eli noticed immediately that she did not treat him with fear or suspicion like the others did. Instead, she observed him with an intelligence that seemed beyond her years, as though she were measuring the weight of his character rather than the human fragility of his form. Days turned into weeks, and Eli found himself drawn into the routines of court life in ways he could not have anticipated. He was a human, yes, fragile in body, yet resilient in ways the alien court had not expected. He learned their customs, their strange codes of conduct, and even their complex language, though his accent betrayed him. He moved among them not as an outsider to be pitied or dismissed, but as someone whose presence mattered. And always, the princess watched Dot. It was during a routine patrol along the outer perimeter of the city that Eli's courage was tested. A sudden eruption of violence came from the wildlands beyond the towers. Beasts of immense size, covered in scales that shimmered like liquid metal, surged toward the city, driven perhaps by hunger or some unknown instinct. The alien guards faltered, their sophisticated weapons slow to respond to the chaotic patterns of attack. Eli did not hesitate. He grabbed a defensive tool from one of the fallen guards and stood at the front line, his human reflexes surprisingly effective against creatures whose intelligence was alien and terrifying. The princess arrived shortly after, watching from a safe distance at first. She saw him dive, protect, and shield not just the guards, but her own people from harm. The battle was fierce and brutal. Eli, despite being wounded several times, never faltered. When the last beast fell, it was not only his skill that saved the day, but the instinctive, unwavering resolve that humans carried, something the aliens themselves had no true equivalent for. She ran to him, concern written across her face, but in her eyes he saw awe. Later, in the serene gardens that overlooked the silver rivers of the city, the princess approached Eli, her expression softer now, less the cautious curiosity of a child and more the respectful recognition of a peer. "You are different," she said simply. Her voice carried the same melodic lilt as her mother's, yet it held something uniquely her own. "Humans are fragile, yet you stand when giants fall. How is this possible?" Eli, exhausted and still bandaged from his wounds, managed a weak smile. "We survive because we must. We fight because we care. Perhaps it is a simple thing you do not see, but it guides us." The bond between them grew quietly, rooted not in romance or duty, but in mutual respect and trust. The princess confided in him her fears of court politics, of betrayals that were subtle yet deadly, of enemies who hid behind smiles and jewels. Eli listened, advised, and sometimes acted when he could, always mindful that his presence was unusual, and yet necessary. Then came the day that would define their connection in the eyes of the court forever. The queen, her form radiant under the twin moons, called her daughter to her chamber. Eli waited outside, uncertain but patient. The princess, with a mixture of pride and certainty, turned to him before entering. "Stay here. she said, though her eyes betrayed no command. Only a shared understanding dot inside the chamber. The queen's gaze was sharp and unyielding, yet curiosity flickered behind her infinite patience. "Who is that?" she asked, her voice carrying both authority and wonder. The princess, without hesitation, met her mother's gaze. "My human," she said simply. The words echoed in Eli's mind, a recognition of everything he had risked, everything he had done, and the trust and bond that had grown in the unlikeliest of places. The queen studied him later, observing his mannerisms, his honor, the way he moved not as an intruder, but as someone who belonged in their midst. It was a rare moment of acknowledgement, for the queen rarely expressed approval so openly, especially toward a being so fundamentally different from her own people. From that moment, Eli's role was no longer limited to protector or guest. He was acknowledged as a presence of significance, a human whose courage, loyalty, and intuition had earned a place beside the princess and within the court's intricate web of respect and duty. The princess guided him through court life, introducing him to the nuances of strategy, diplomacy, and the subtle arts of negotiation that her people mastered. He learned not just to survive, but to thrive, adapting his human instincts to alien contexts while retaining the essence of what made him human. Years passed, and the bond between the princess and Eli became legend. Tales spread not of conquest or power, but of mutual respect, of understanding across worlds, of a human who had become indispensable not through strength of arms alone, but through the unwavering integrity of his heart. The queen herself, once distant and inscrutable, often spoke of him with measured admiration. Recognizing in Eli qualities her people could not manufacture: resilience, compassion, and courage in the face of fear. In one moment, under the twin moons that bathed the city in silver light, the princess stood beside Eli on the balcony of the royal palace. The city below sparkled like a sea of stars, and for a fleeting moment, all the complexities of politics, duty, and expectation faded away. She leaned close and said softly, "I am glad you are here. Always." Eli, looking out over a world that had once seemed alien and impossible, felt something he had never anticipated: a sense of belonging. He was human, yes, but here, on this distant planet filled with wonders and mysteries, he was more than that. He was a protector, a confidant, and above all, he was seen. And in that recognition, a bridge was built, a bridge between worlds, between species, and between hearts that understood each other beyond words or customs. The queen had asked a question, simple yet profound, and the princess had answered with clarity and truth. In those two words, "my human," lay a promise, a future, and a testament to the strength of humanity in a galaxy that had once doubted it. Eli did not know what challenges lay ahead, nor the battles yet to come, but he understood that whatever they might be, he would face them not as a stranger, not as an outsider, but as someone who had earned his place, someone who mattered. And the princess, who had trusted him with her life and her confidence, knew the same. Together, they would navigate the currents of a world that was vast, dangerous, and magnificent, proving that sometimes the smallest among us carry the greatest weight, and that courage, loyalty, and trust could span even the stars. The stars above continued their silent vigil. And for Eli, the human among aliens, the journey was only beginning. He had become part of a story that would be told for generations, a story of bravery, of unexpected bonds, and of a human whose heart had earned a place in the galaxy. And as the twin moons rose high, casting silver light across the palace, Eli knew that he was no longer just a visitor in this world. He was home. The court, once indifferent to his presence, now looked upon him with a mixture of respect and curiosity. Young nobles, who had once whispered about the strange human, began seeking his counsel. Soldiers, inspired by his fearless actions, trained harder, hoping to emulate his skill and instinct. And through it all, the princess remained at his side, guiding, trusting, and sharing the moments of quiet understanding that spoke louder than words. Even the queen, who had always governed with a cool detachment, showed subtle signs of approval. She observed Eli from a distance, noting how his presence influenced those around him, how the court functioned more smoothly when he was near, and how the princess seemed brighter, more confident when he was present. It was a recognition that transcended language, a silent acknowledgement that humans, fragile though they might appear, carried a spirit unmatched even in a world of cosmic wonders. Eli's life, once ordinary on a distant blue planet, had transformed into an extraordinary journey among beings who were not his own. He had faced dangers unimaginable, navigated politics alien in complexity, and yet he had thrived, not by abandoning who he was, but by embracing it fully. And the princess, whose trust had been his guiding light, had given him a gift no weapon or technology could replicate, the certainty of belonging. As the twin moons set and the first light of the planet's sun touched the crystalline towers, Eli stood beside the princess, watching a new day begin. The city around them hummed with life, vibrant and alive, reflecting the promise of what they had built together, a bridge between worlds, a testament to the strength of human courage and the undeniable truth that sometimes the smallest presence can cast the longest shadow. And in the quiet of that moment,